In this video, I will learn how to quickly and clearly classify using SBL Core. The software classifies the product based on the hazard and concentration of the contained substances and physical properties. The information needed to classify the product can be found in the supporting data section. Here I can fill in all the data that the software will need for the calculation. I'll start with the classification supporting data section. In the usage drop-down list, I select for whom the product is intended, whether for consumers, professionals, or industry. Within this choice, the software will fill in the correct P phrases within the automatic classification in accordance with ECA guidelines. In the next drop-down list, I select the physical state of my product. If I know the pH of the product, I'd add its value to the next field. The pH value can affect the calculation of corrosivity. In the next rows, I can fill in the flash point and boiling point. Based on these values, the software can calculate the hazard within the flammability range. The kinematic viscosity at 40 degrees affects the calculation of the inhalation hazard classification. If I know it, I can fill in the corrosion rate value. This affects the corrosivity for metals within the calculation. In the drop-down list, I can select whether my product is an aerosol and if so, its hazard category. In the last drop-down list, I select whether my product is a detergent, a paint, or a biocide. Based on this selection, I can add additional label information to the safety data sheet. When I'm done, I can move on to the next section, Substances, where I will fill in the product composition information. I'll gradually add substances. I can choose from more than 8,000 substances in the database, which is already part of SBL Core, or from substances added by me. I have already learned how to insert a substance manually in the video called New Substance. Substances that I will add now, I have already prepared in advance according to the supplier's documentation. I click on the Add Substance button. I search for the substance using the CAS, EC, or index identification numbers or name. The first substance I search for, isopropanol, is CAS number 67630. I have pre-selected the substances I will need today using the source. I click on the substance which I want to add. In my case, it's the substance with the source SBL Core video. At the bottom of the window, I fill in the concentration of the substance. I can either enter a whole number, such as 2%, or a numerical range, such as 1 to 3%. If I enter a range, the software will use the upper value of the range when calculating the classification, in my case, 3%. However, if I don't want the software to automatically calculate the upper value of the range, I can enter the exact concentration as a percentage in the box below. If I fill in the exact concentration, the software will automatically use the figure for the calculation. In the drop-down list, I can select the name of the substance to be used in the safety data sheet. For each substance, I can also check a few properties: display on the label, display in the safety data sheet, take into account for classification calculation, and nanoform. The first two fields are filled in by the software itself if I use the automatic classification function. SBL Core is able to determine which substances go on the label and which on the safety data sheet according to the classification result and the built-in legislative rules. If I want to keep the entire formula of a product in the program, I can add all the substances contained in the product on the supporting data. For the substances, I only have to adjust whether I want to include them in the final safety data sheet or count them in the classification balance sheet. The last thing I select is whether the substance is used in nanoform. I will add the substance. I will add a second substance with CAS number 666331 at a concentration of 9.6%. The third substance in my product is ethyl benzene. I don't have to look for a substance in the SDS just by CAS number, but I can also look by name or EC number. I look for a substance with EC number 2028494 with a concentration of 65%. As the last step, I'll add calcium chloride. If I need to change any of the entered concentrations, I can double-click the substance again and adjust the concentration. I have now filled in all the information I know and can move on to the actual hazard calculation. In the classification section, I click on Classify automatically. In automatic classification, the software calculates the product independently based on the input data. A new window will appear. Here I can see the resulting classification of the mixture. I see two drop-down lists at the top. On the left is the type of classification, and on the right is acute toxicity inhalation. The software automatically detects and adds which inhaled form of the product it is. My product is a liquid, so the software selected vapor. Next, I see the resulting H phrases along with the recommended guidelines, that is, P phrases. Below are the substances that the software selected for inclusion on the label and the ESDS. Legislation determines which substances must be included in the safety datasheet and on the label. The window offers several other features. For example, I can add a classification balance sheet to the attachment that summarizes the entire calculation procedure and input the data for the classification. I can also fill in phrases through the safety datasheet by checking the Fill in Phrases box. If I am editing an already finished safety datasheet and I do not want to overwrite the already selected P phrases, I can check the box Do not change P phrases according to classification. The software also automatically evaluates which substances are required to be reported in Section 3 based on the legislation. If I want to ignore the legislative requirements and list all substances in the formulation, I tick the box Also list substances that are not mandatory in the safety datasheet. I confirm the automatic classification.